Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Dave.
And this is Nfgeeks.
Mm.
And Dave, for this episode, we're going to talk about some of your INFJ questions about self and being and journey that we've been talking about very intensely over the past couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really, I guess, the possible choice of a solitary monastic ascetic wisdom life.
Yeah.
That seems to appeal to many INFJs. So first of all, now when I say monastic, so for the audience at home, I'm sort of speaking metaphorically. It could be literally. You never know. Dave could become a monk somewhere, but certainly we're talking about a life that's a singular path, not a path with others or even maybe another person, but talking about a path that is both wisdom, filled with wisdom, and filled with mysticism and spirituality. That is sort of you alone on that path. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. When did you? So let's get some background here. When did you really start thinking about this in earnest? And what were sort of the triggers going on in your life? When did you start really sort of consciously thinking about this?
Well, technically, I've always been on a monastic path. I'm an only child, and I've always felt that I never could really, truly relate to anyone else. Like in elementary school, middle school, up to high school, and currently, things have been a little bit better. I've since met people of similar interests, such as you and, Dan and, a bunch of other people. But throughout my whole life, it's just been a monastic path, and, I've always felt like I was on my own with things. I was always a lone wolf, so to speak. But in earnest, I'd have to say in high school, because because I got into Buddhism in high school. Because I was brought up Catholic, and it was around middle school that I really started to question everything about it. I didn't necessarily like the fact that they used the circular knowledge that the Bible is everything you need to know about everything, and they always backtrack to that, or they would say God's the reason and stuff like that. And I didn't feel that was a good enough answer. That was originally why I decided to seek other ways, and then Buddhism fell into my lap originally in middle school, but then teen angst came about, and I was angry about the whole religious institution, so I was an atheist up until say senior year. And that doesn't help. Atheism doesn't help. I always felt empty being an atheist. I always felt that because I knew there was more. There was more, and I was denying myself that experience. And there's always the day that I really truly it really hit me that I was gonna pass one day, and that was frightening, and that was always something that stuck with me, and I would always have panic attacks and stuff like that, like real anxiety attacks, like I don't like the fact that it just all stops, like I was trying to convince myself that that's what it was, and it was just a bad time. So then, going into college again, I re-sparked my interest in Buddhism. Well, actually, I should back up a bit. It was more like around like senior year, I started to do it again, but I never got the support I need. Support I kind of wanted from people. They would always like say, "Oh, now Dave, you're gonna be you know, when I messed up, they'd be like, "Oh, Dave, you're gonna be reincarnated for a rock for that one," stuff like that. So it was discouraging. So then, like, I quit again, and then you know, I went back to then going back to like college. I found it again, but you know, the person I was kind of talking to didn't seem to like the idea of me being a Buddhist. So at that point, I was just like, you know what? I probably will get the support I need from anyone else, so I might as well just do this on my own. So in earnest, I would have to say I was at that point, say in in college rather, where I was, you know, I never got the support from anybody, so I figured if I'm really going to do this, I'd have to do it for myself, and that's it. So I'd say that was originally why I chose a monastic path.
All right. How would you describe the current crisis you've been having with it? What are the current issues about this path that you've been having? And also, you know, how does it relate to being an INFJ or INFJness? But what's the bring us to the present now? What's the current situation?
Well, the current situation is that I don't. Mindfulness is hard.
Is it?
I'm trying. What I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to not see Buddhism as a separate entity. I'm trying to take a very Taoist approach to this, and that it is me and I am it. You know, and we're one and the same. But also trying to be more mindful towards everything. Trying to see that. Trying to not cause desire in myself, but also cause desire or suffering for myself, but also desiring suffering for other people, and trying to do that all the time. You know, even like while driving, not trying to drive in a way that you know brings suffering to other people or desire to myself, and vice versa. And it's exhausting. You know, it's the equivalent of me just being like at you know in Washington like last weekend, you know, meeting all these people. You know, it's the equivalent to that, only to myself. You know, it's extraordinarily exhausting to always have that at the forefront of your mind. You know, and it's worrying because it's like, well, if this is all I'm thinking about, you know, where does that leave room for me to be myself? And then it brings up the assumption that does being mindful mean I can't be myself? So I don't know. That's the current crisis I'm facing right now, and it's driving me nuts. But how it relates to being an INFJ, I'd have to say, is just the fact that because my emotions run outward, like you say, and I find that to be true, it's just that how I control that emotion, how do I be mindful when I'm focused inward and something's going outward?
Oh boy, that's the that's the $64 question.
Yeah,
for sure.
You know, how do I be mindful to that? And I don't necessarily know, and I'm trying to look, but I don't know. Yoda even said, you know, there is no try. There's a do or do not.
Yeah, and he was an INFJ.
Yeah, he was.
That's right. Well, what can you be more specific? You don't have to give like specific detail, but what are some of the issues that the mindfulness has really been that you've really been struggling with the mindfulness? Where has the mindfulness been really sort of either lacking or been a burden or been really hard for you? What issue of mindlessness have you been wrestling with? That's what I'm trying to say.
Just trying to be honest with people. I feel trying to get my opinion out there, you know, or because you know being excited about something could spark a desire in someone else, or you know not being angry with something, being frustrated with something could be cause suffering to someone else or even to myself, you know. So it's difficult, you know, to be like, well, how do I, you know, I'm kind of mindful of that, but I don't know what to do. You know, how do I not cause this, you know? Or I could take the utilitarian approach and be like, well, as long as it causes the least amount of suffering or the least amount of desire, then I guess it's fine.
Wow, utilitarian Buddhism.
Yeah. You know, and then there's always the existential approach where it's just like, well, it's all meaningless, so fuck it. You know, which is, you know, the last resort. But I don't know, it's a struggle, you know. The path is full of potholes, so consider walking.
Indeed. Well, let's speak of the path then. We've talked about the present and the past. Let's bring it into the future now.
Mm-hmm.
You've sort of had some questions of whether or not you are able or worthy to go down this path, or even if you should go down this path.
Right.
Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling so much with it now. It's brought up. Whoa. Is it worth it? You know, do I really want to? Because the problems are only going to get worse, I imagine. You know, the further on down the line. So, do I really want to do that to myself? You know, and it brings up the whole question of if I want to have a family later on down the line, is that necessarily mindful? You know, is it? I don't know. You know, I guess you can be mindful while having a family, sure, but it's like I can hardly figure myself out. Never mind if I'm raising a kid or trying to have a relationship with somebody, and that in itself, having a family is a desire. So you know, I'd have to detach myself from ever wanting to do that too, and you know, wanting to go to another university is a desire in itself. You know, and wanting to be a better Buddhist, you know, wanting to improve is all desire. So, right now I'm pretty much screwing up as we speak. But yeah, this is what I've been wrestling with. It's not easy, and so that's why I'm questioning: am I mean, necessarily worthy? But I think even the Buddha would say it's not necessarily about worth. You know, it's willingness. You know, and even like this meditation teacher I'm like really into, Gil Fronsdale. He owns like audiodharma.com. And he suggests anyone check it out. You know, like the Zencast and all that stuff. And he gives these Dharma talks, and one of them he's like, it's best to do an imperfect meditation than it is to do a perfect meditation or be a perfect meditator, because like even when you achieve enlightenment, there's still stuff to do. You know, you're not finished with that. You know, there's always you know, there's always people you have to help and stuff you have to build. You know, or build within yourself. And I don't know. There's like a great story of this Zen monastery, and the teacher built this pathway, and the pathway is barricaded by a mirror, and no one knows what it's about. And you know, they throw rocks at it and it doesn't break, and they try to go around it, but it's surrounded by thorn bushes, so that doesn't work out. And then one day, the student looks into the mirror and says, the reflection is me, but I am not the reflection. And then he touches the mirror, and the mirror opens. And then on the other side is the Zen teacher with a shovel, or with two shovels. And then that's how the story ends.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So, what it pretty much means is that, okay, you finally achieved enlightenment. That's the mirror opening. You realize that the reality is a mirage, you know, and stuff like that. Like, all the attachments and all that is just an illusion, you know. So, you know, you achieve the enlightenment, and then that's not the end. You still have to work. You still have to
do your work.
Do your work. You know,
Just like Rumi says.
just like Rumi says, you
Yeah.
know, or just like what Plato says about the cave.
Yeah.
You know, you find the enlightenment, then you go back into the cave and try to save people.
Well, Dave, we're done.
Well,
And so,
yeah.
with that, may
With
you go
that-
on your path.
May I go on my path. Alright, I'm Dave, this is Mike.
Nfgeeks.
Nfgeeks.